Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So yes, the time has come once again. The 2024 Emmys nominations were announced today, and so of course, as is tradition here on my channel, I'm going to be diving into my thoughts, feelings and reactions to the nominees list. We're going to get into my thoughts on who I think will win versus who I think should win at the 2024 Emmys. So if that sounds good to you, then keep on watching and be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy my awards season content. I have a whole playlist on my channel diving into awards seasons from 4 years past, so have at it. Have a great time diving into the archives, and as per usual, if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and make sure you turn on your notifications so that you can be told when I upload next. Now without further ado guys, let's get into this. So the first category that we've got up is Best Lead Actress in a Drama Series. And here the nominees are Jennifer Aniston for The Morning Show, Carrie Coon for The Gilded Age, Maya Erskine for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Anna Sawai for Shōgun, Imelda Staunton for The Crown, and Reese Witherspoon for The Morning Show. So I want to start off with The Morning Show, ladies. First of all, is it my imagination or was The Morning Show previously featured in comedy categories? I don't know if I'm misremembering that. It could just be something that I made up just now, but I'm pretty sure The Morning Show was previously a comedy, right? Or was it always a drama? Let me know down in the comments, please. I can't be bothered to look it up right now. And number two, and this goes to like the overall category and really across the board with these nominations this year, I found the nomination of Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston from The Morning Show to be really bland and boring. Like to be really just disappointing, bare minimum, common denominator behavior. And I've noticed this, like I said, across the categories, where it seems like, you know, anyone who had a show from 2020 onwards and the show is still going will land themselves on this nominations list. It just seems so stale, so repetitive and so predictable. I don't know if it's because I've been doing this for like 4 years now, so I've started to see the patterns, but it's just getting old. It's so uninventive and uncreative, and it's not like the material isn't there. The fact that you just have these same old A-lister celebrities that pop up for doing like the bare minimum pisses me off to no end. But many of you guys already know that. Many of you guys already know, if you've watched my previous reaction videos to nominations list, you know that this is a gripe that I always have. So putting it out there straight away with the featuring of 2 of the stars from The Morning Show. And then next up we have Carrie Coon from The Gilded Age, and this to me is believable. You know, this to me is fine. I think once again she benefits from being like a name actress that people recognize and like, and The Gilded Age is a HBO show which has a lot of power behind it when it comes to awards, so I'm not surprised that she's featured here and that the show is featured elsewhere. When it comes to me and The Gilded Age, we don't really get along. We don't really get along, I'm afraid. Like, me and The Gilded Age are kind of like water and oil. I much prefer Bridgerton. It's like trashy younger sister that's full of melodrama and yearning and angst and pretty costumes that may not be historically accurate but are so much nicer to look at. Like, I much prefer Bridgerton. The Gilded Age to me is just a little bit bland. Like, it doesn't have the spice. And so I tried watching season 1. I watched the entirety of the first season, but I did not return for season 2. So I do know that Carrie Coon is great on the show, and I'm not surprised that she's here on this list, but I can't speak to the quality of her acting in season 2 because I dumped that series. I'm sorry, like, it just wasn't working out. Next up on the list we have Maya Erskine for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Speaking of shows that didn't work out for me, now this is actually a very unpopular opinion, as I found out when I posted my Mr. and Mrs. Smith review earlier this year. You can go ahead and check that out if you want. But yeah, a lot of people really enjoyed that series. Some people agreed with me though that it was quite boring and a bit of a weird interpretation of the film, although I was corrected on several accounts by people who said it wasn't supposed to be an adaptation of the movie but of a book or of a TV show or something. So fair enough, but at the end of the day, I just did not connect to the series. But I wasn't the biggest fan of the show overall, and that kind of colors my opinion of Maya Erskine's performance of the series. I wasn't like blown away. Like honestly, like she didn't do anything spectacular in my mind. Her character was so unlikable though, that to me it's just tough for me to judge even somewhat objectively. So yeah, it's a tough one for me as someone who didn't like the show, but I'm not angry that she's on the list. Like, I'm less perturbed by her presence here than say Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, which to me is just lazy. Then next up you have Imelda Staunton for The Crown. I believe this is for the final season of The Crown, and it's great to see her here. The Crown ladies are always featured on these lists. I think Imelda got the short end of the stick because her seasons weren't the best. They were met with a few more mixed reviews in some of the prime Crown seasons, but overall I think she did a really great job. Even though she's not my favorite Queen Elizabeth, she did have some pretty good moments, especially in the second half of the final season, so I'm glad to see that she's been featured here. But not all hope is lost, because we do have another newcomer on this list in Anna Sawai from Shōgun. Yes, Shōgun emerged as one of the most nominated series for this year's Emmys, and that's really exciting. I say this, although I'll share my thoughts on Shōgun later when we get to that category. But nonetheless, I am very happy to see Anna nominated here, and if I had to pick a front runner, she would be the one. Like, I would give this award to her, and I do think she is likely to win this as well. I just think that in comparison to a lot of the other performances that we have on this list, she's fresher, she's newer, she has a whole new energy, and also Shōgun was such a complexly written series, and she had such a complex character that she had a lot more to do and a lot more to present to us as a character on the show, and she rose to the occasion 1000%. But I would say if anyone's going to take this one home, it's probably going to be Anna, and I would definitely agree with that outcome. Okay, so next up on the list we have Best Lead Actor in a Drama Series, and here the nominees are Idris Elba for Hijack, Donald Glover for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Walton Goggins for Fallout, Gary Oldman for Slow Horses, Hiroyuki Sanada for Shōgun, and Dominic West for The Crown. So you see, here we have a more interesting collection of shows. Do you see what I mean? Like, do you see what it's crazy, but like this to me is a lot more exciting because we have shows that are from different genres. If you think about Fallout, Slow Horses, Shōgun, The Crown, Hijack, like these are very different shows showcasing very different lead male characters. So I'm really impressed with this collection. Actually, I find this to be far more exciting than the Best Lead Actress category. And in terms of the actual nominees, I mean, first one up we have is Idris Elba in Hijack. Huge round of applause. Huge round of applause from me, okay? Because if you've watched my best of 2023 video, then you already know. You already know that I was one of the only people on the planet, apparently, singing the praises of Hijack. Hijack was a phenomenal Apple TV Plus show that almost no one watched, but apparently just enough people watched it for him to end up on this list. I am so happy that Idris Elba has gotten some recognition for his work on the show. I think it's wholly deserving for him to be nominated here, and I also love the fact that he's in the Best Drama category because it means that we are going to be getting that second season, because it's not a limited series. We're definitely going to get that second season, and I can't wait. So yeah, this is great news to me. Highly approve of this nomination. Next up we have Donald Glover in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and like everything that I said about Maya Erskine can be applied here as well. I didn't love the show, and I didn't think that Donald Glover did anything particularly exceptional on the show, at least nothing that we haven't seen from him, you know, from Atlanta at the very least. But I'm really glad that the Emmys took a liking to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, not least of all because it is different. It does bring some fresh blood into the pool, and it shows that they've actually been watching television. Like imagine, imagine like the Academy actually watching a wide range of television. That's all I've asked for all these years, and this category proves that they're starting to do that. So that makes me really excited, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And then speaking of actually watching television, we have Fallout. Walton Goggins in Fallout. Yes. Yes, actually. Yes, actually, I was delighted to see Walton Goggins be nominated for Fallout. I was so afraid. Oh my God. I was so afraid when I was watching the show that people would forget that this was Walton Goggins behind the mask, behind the prosthetics, because he is so perfect. He is so brilliant on that show. So menacing, so filthy, so murderous, so conniving, so clever. Perfect anti-villain hero. I don't even know what becomes of the character in the long term, but just absolute perfection. Absolute perfection. Standout performance from that entire series. And yeah, anyone who's not on his level shouldn't even be here on this list, quite frankly. And this is what I mean, by the way, when I talk about the actress categories. Like, are there any performances in that category that rise up to Walton Goggins in Fallout? No. The only one that comes close is Anna in Shōgun. So like this is the standard that I would set for these nominees. And speaking of Shōgun, next up we also have Hiroyuki Sanada nominated in this category, and I think he's the top choice to take the award home. I think he was absolutely phenomenal in Shōgun. You know, everything that I said about Anna applies to Hiroyuki here as well. The writing is so stellar on these characters. They're so complex and multifaceted, and the actors just completely rise to the occasion. It's a really fascinating series. I'll dive more into my thoughts on it when we get to the best drama category, because they're a little bit complex and multi-layered as well. But I, hands down, I would say that Hiroyuki Sanada would be the best bet to take this award home, and that is definitely something that I would agree with. Okay, so next up on the list we have Best Supporting Actress in a Drama Series, and here the nominees are Christine Baranski in The Gilded Age, Nicole Beharie in The Morning Show, Elizabeth Debicki from The Crown, Greta Lee from The Morning Show, Leslie Manville from The Crown, Karen Pittman from The Morning Show, and Holland Taylor from The Morning Show. I've already said everything that I just said about The Morning Show for the Best Actress category can be applied here as well. Although I will say there is something to be said about the fact that, you know, everyone who has even a cameo on this goddamn series will end up with an Emmy nomination. Like, the fact that Nicole Beharie is here on this list really brings a smile to my face. I am happy about that. And considering that there are so many nominees from this list, I mean, you have Greta Lee here, that's incredible. There must be something, like there must be some source here. Maybe I will check out the show finally. I do have a free Apple TV Plus membership that I need to get the most out of this month. So maybe I'll finally just click on that goddamn show. Because at the very least, it seems to be giving, you know, a whole bunch of actresses great opportunities to do some actoring and even get nominations off of it. So that's impressive. You know, that is really impressive. Even though I cringe at the fact that so many of these nominees are from the same goddamn show, it just feels really lazy to me. But maybe there is something there that I'm not seeing. So I think this year, I think 2024 will finally be the year where I cave and watch this goddamn Morning Show. In terms of who I think should win, I would say Elizabeth Debicki. I mean, I'd be hard-pressed to think of another actress who killed it as much as she did as Princess Diana for the last 2 seasons of The Crown. Again, it seems like decades ago that the series wrapped up, but really it was just last year, and she hasn't gotten her dues yet. And also, let's not forget that another reason why the timing of all of this might feel a bit odd is because the 2024 Emmys aren't actually the first Emmys that we have gotten in 2024. We already had an Emmy ceremony earlier this year for the 2023 Emmys, which were delayed due to the strikes. So it kind of feels odd to be back on this horse again. But let's not forget that Elizabeth Debicki hasn't gotten her due for her part in the last season of The Crown, and she is wholly deserving of it. I think she won the Emmy for her part in season, is it 5 or 6? No, 5. But this is for season 6. And speaking of The Crown season 6, I'm also really delighted to see Leslie Mann Manville featured on this nominees list. Oh, the Princess Margaret episode in the final season of The Crown was one of the best episodes of that entire season and of the show itself. And Leslie Manville was incredible at depicting the deteriorating health of Princess Margaret. It was heartbreaking. It made me sympathize with a character that I didn't really care for the longest time. And she absolutely nailed her performance across the season, but particularly in that dedicated episode. So really happy to see her here. I would be happy with Elizabeth Debicki or Leslie Manville taking home the gold. Okay, so next up we have Best Supporting Actor in a Drama Series, and here the nominees are Tadanobu Asano for Shōgun, John Hamm for The Morning Show, Mark Duplass for The Morning Show, Billy Crudup for The Morning Show, Takahiro Hira for Shōgun, Jack Lowden for Slow Horses, wow, this is a tongue twister, and Jonathan Pryce for The Crown. I need to watch The Morning Show. Like, I need to watch The Morning Show. That's the theme of this entire video. Clearly. I was talking about how this show seemed to be giving opportunities for actresses to shine, but even the actors are in here. Even the men are in here, taking up a ton of space on this nominees list. Unfortunately, I can't comment on their performances on the show, but let's talk about the Shōgun guys. I think it's really wonderful to see these actors be featured in this category. What a strong showing from the Shōgun cast. The fact that they're such strong newcomers in these categories is really impressive, and it speaks to the quality of the show, and the fact that Disney and Hulu or FX or whoever are really pushing it for this awards season. So well done on all fronts, especially because they failed to promote it when the show was initially released, but they've picked up on the steam that the show got and they've managed to push it through to the end. So that's really impressive. In terms of who I think is the front runner in this category, I'll be honest, I have no freaking clue. Like, it's tough because I feel like when you have multiple actors from the same show, they kind of cancel each other out, because how do you determine who was strongest? Like, you need to have been significantly stronger. I don't know if I see that in the Shōgun guys. The Morning Show, again, don't watch. And then you have Jonathan Pryce from The Crown, and unfortunately I wasn't overly impressed by Jonathan Pryce's turn as Prince Philip. I think we've had better Prince Philips in the past, and so, you know, he's here because he has to be, because he's from The Crown, but I wasn't like blown away from his performance. So genuinely, this is like an open category to me, but you guys let me know who you think should be the front runner, who should win and will win in this category. I've never felt so blind and in the dark. Okay, so we've been talking about the actors in these drama series, so of course it's time to delve into the best drama series category. And here the nominees are The Crown, Fallout, The Gilded Age, The Morning Show, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Shōgun, Slow Horses, and Three Body Problem. Three Body Problem being here is a steal. That's a gag. Like, I'm shook. You know, good job to Benioff and Weiss for getting it in there somehow. But yeah, the show kind of came and went to me, and it didn't really grab my attention. I only watched half of the first episode and just like couldn't be arsed, honestly. I couldn't be arsed, I'm sorry. So I didn't check out Three Body Problem, but you know, it's cute that it's here, I guess. And then when we get to The Crown, it's an Emmy staple. The show was on its final season. Of course, it's going to be on here. It's very predictable. Fallout, that's a nice little gag. That's a nice little surprise. I think it deserves, honestly. I'm not really familiar with the games or anything, but from the looks of things, it seems to be one of the best video game adaptations that we have ever gotten from Hollywood. So good job there. They seem to be on a winning streak when it comes to those. So yeah, I'm really glad to see Fallout on this list. Next, we have The Gilded Age. Again, didn't really love the first season, but happy to see that people really love the second, and that's here as well. That's pretty predictable because many of the actors have gotten nominated. Same thing with The Morning Show. Like I said, the thing that I've learned the most from this entire list is that I need to watch the goddamn Morning Show finally. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I already said I'm in the minority. Okay, it's an unpopular opinion. I don't know what to tell you, but I thought that series was boring as hell. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought that series was boring as hell. I did not connect with it. I thought it was underwhelming. I saw what they were trying to do. I understand what their goal was, to kind of humanize these characters and bring them down to earth. I just didn't think we needed that, actually. I didn't want relatable Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I wanted them to be Brangelina levels, kind of hot and wild and wacky and sexy, and I just didn't get that from the show. So whilst many of you guys really enjoyed it, I respect that, love that for you, I personally did not. And then next we have Shōgun, and to me this is the front runner in this category. I think this is Shōgun's to lose, and I would say that I think it deserves I think it deserves. I have a very complicated relationship with Shōgun in that I didn't get it. I'm so sorry. As much as I appreciated the acting, the performances, the technical aspects of the show, cinematography, production design, the location, whoever did the locationing of the situation, just absolutely flawless. Costume design, also diving into that era of Japanese history. Oh, ate that up. I really enjoyed that aspect of the show. To me, where it kind of fell apart was the story. I just found it a bit boring. I don't know, this might just be a me problem. Maybe this is 2024 Jean just wanting something else from her media at the moment. I accept that. But yeah, I really struggled to get invested in the storylines, in the characters. I just didn't care as much as I wanted to. I just didn't care. Like I saw it, it was beautiful, it was grand, it was amazing, but I just didn't care. And it's a tough one, honestly. I wouldn't rule out rewatching the first season again. I was watching it on a weekly basis initially, so maybe if I like binge watch it, it'll be a different experience. Maybe I'll circle back when season 2 comes out, because yes, there will be a season 2. I accept the fact that it might be a me problem. You know, I accept that. Another unpopular opinion, that's okay. But I can't lie, I just did not connect with the show as much as many other people seem to have. But still, that doesn't change the fact that I think that this series will win, and I do think that it should win. I recognize that it is miles above a lot of the stuff that we have gotten from Hollywood recently. It's just a delicious show. I just wish that at the time I was more invested in the characters and the story, but that could change upon second viewing, so we shall see. Okay, so next up we have the comedy category, starting us off with the best lead actress in a comedy series, and here the nominees are Quinta Brunson in Abbott Elementary, Ayo Edebiri for The Bear, Selena Gomez for Only Murders in the Building, Maya Rudolph for Loot, Jean Smart for Hacks, and Kristen Wiig for Palm Royale. So let's start off with the underwhelming nominees. Sorry, that sounds so rude and mean. But the ones that I'm like not shocked by, not gagged by. Selena Gomez in Only Murders. Only Murders to me is like, I mean, I didn't understand the level of hype in season 1. And season 1 to me was still the best season of the show. So at this point, I'm really just confused. Like at this point, I'm not understanding what people are seeing. I have seen the most recent season of Only Murders with Meryl Streep. I watched it in the background whilst I was doing other things. So like it was pleasant in that way, but I just have never gotten how gagged people are over this show. To me, it's just like light, cute viewing, but I don't really see any of the actors doing anything exceptional that blows my mind or reinvents the wheel. And so I think this is a wasted space, in my opinion. Similarly, but for a more recent series, we have Kristen Wiig in Palm Royale. The only reason why she's here is because she's Kristen Wiig. She's the comedy icon and legend. That's why she's featured on this list. Palm Royale is nothing spectacular. It's nothing special. It's actually quite underwhelming. And I have seen a few episodes of that series. It's quite underwhelming. It's fine. Like it's fine, but it's Kristen Wiig and she's doing something new, so she has to be on here, whatever. But conversely, we have Maya Rudolph in Loot. And actually, I think this is deserved. Actually, I'm very happy to see Maya Rudolph from Loot be nominated here because I think she's genuinely hilarious on that show. I like Loot, yes I do. It's a crazy kooky series about Maya Rudolph who was married to a billionaire, a la, you know, Jeff Bezos, and they get divorced. She has a ton of money and she wants to give it all away, but she's kind of like crazy and kooky and still a billionaire mentally, and so all sorts of funny chaos ensues. And I think the whole cast is great. I think the writing is pretty solid. It's not phenomenal, it doesn't reinvent the wheel or anything, but it's solid viewing. Like, I get a couple of chuckles each episode, and that's what I can ask for really from a comedy. So I do approve of Maya Rudolph's nomination here, but she's not the one that's caught my eye. Let's be real, because it's definitely Ayo Edebiri for The Bear. This is season 2 of The Bear that's being nominated here, and this is what gets me a little bit nervous, a little bit scared, because of course we have just had a new season of The Bear drop and it was met with mixed reviews. It wasn't as beloved as season 2 was. I just hope that the voters remember that they're voting for season 2 because season 2 was near perfect television, and Ayo absolutely deserves to take home the gold for lead actress rather than supporting actress, which she has done previously, for her work in season 2. So hopefully the voters remember that it's season 2 that you're voting for, not season 3, okay? And she absolutely deserves to get that award. But she would be my front runner, who I want to win and who I think will win so far, unless people forget. So next up we have Best Lead Actor in a Comedy Series, and here the nominees are Matt Berry for What We Do in the Shadows, Larry David for Curb Your Enthusiasm, Steve Martin for Only Murders, Martin Short for Only Murders, Jeremy Allen White for The Bear, and Pharaoh Woon Atai for Reservation Dogs. So again, I've already said my piece on Only Murders several times across several years at this point. I think that the Only Murders guys tend to cancel each other out, and I think that's what will likely happen this time around as well. I think they're both equally as good on the show, to be fair. Like, I don't think that they're bad or anything. It's just that I'm not blown away by anything that they do on the show. I was blown away by, though, when I saw this list, Matt Berry for What We Do in the Shadows. Finally that show getting the respect that it deserves, and more importantly the actors getting the respect that they deserve. Now unfortunately I don't think any of the other What We Do in the Shadows actors are nominated, which I think is a huge shame, because I think each of the four main actors would absolutely deserve to be on here. And this is what I mean by like exceptional performance. Like like the What We Do in the Shadows guys have been delivering for like, I don't know, 20 seasons at this point, and they have gone completely ignored, and it kills me. So I'm really happy to see Matt Berry on here. I believe this is his first nomination, although correct me if I'm mistaken, but it's wholly deserving and it should have happened sooner. But in terms of who I think will win, should win in this category, it's probably going to be Jeremy Allen White. Like, it's probably going to be Jeremy Allen White, regardless of all the discussions on whether or not The Bear is a comedy, regardless of the mixed reviews that season 3 got. I do still think that Jeremy Allen White is a front runner here. He absolutely deserves to take this one home, and considering that he already got the Emmy for his work on season 1, and season 2 was even better, I think he stands a pretty good chance. Then next up we have Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series, and here the nominees are Carol Burnett for Palm Royale, Liza Colon Zayas for The Bear, Hannah Einbender for Hacks, Janelle James for Abbott Elementary, Cheryl Lee Ralph for Abbott Elementary, and Meryl Streep for Only Murders in the Building. I mean, that's the reason why someone like Meryl Streep does a show like this, right? Like, it's for the Emmy nom. It's for the Emmy nom. I will say, I think Meryl Streep was really good in Only Murders. She seemed to really embrace the craziness and wackiness of that show, and she fit right in, which is crazy because she's one of the most well-renowned actors of our time. So good on her, honestly. Like, she somehow manages to still be a chameleon in that role. So I think it is deserved, actually, that she's on this list. If anyone deserves to be nominated, it would be Meryl Streep. I actually agree with this one. And in terms of the other nominees, again, Palm Royale to me was just like so blah. Nothing really stood out immensely. So, you know, Carol Burnett is an icon, is a legend. Not surprised that she's on here. But she's on here because she's Carol Burnett, not necessarily because Palm Royale is an exceptional series. Liza Colon-Zayas for The Bear. Very happy to see her be spotlighted here and get this nomination. Wholly deserved. And Hannah Einbinder. I haven't really talked about Hacks yet, but this is the moment. This is the time. I really enjoyed season 3 of Hacks. I thought season 3 of Hacks was phenomenal. Oh, I thought season 3 of Hacks was exceptional television. It returned to the glory of season 1. It stumbled with season 2, and I kind of lost my faith in the Hacks writers a little bit. It didn't really meet the standard of season 1, and I didn't love the direction that they took for the character of Deborah Vance. Like, I just thought she toppled over on the extremely unlikable and unforgivable and unredeemable side of things. So I really struggled with season 2 of Hacks, but something in me told me to return for season 3, and I'm so glad that I did, because season 3, we're back. We're back. We're back to the good old days with Hacks. Okay, huge fan of the show. Looking forward to season 4, especially after that sick ass ending, especially after that cliffhanger. Ooh, we're back. We're so back. Okay. So yeah, very happy to see both Hannah and Jean Smart be nominated for their roles in this series. They knock it out of the park each and every time, but especially this season, they ate. They absolutely did, yep. And speaking of someone who eats each and every time, Janelle James. I have said this many times. I've whispered it, okay, I whispered it in the darkness of night. I think if anyone deserved an Emmy for comedy, for pure comedy, from Abbott Elementary, it would be Janelle James. She is consistently the funniest part of that show, and I'm gagged that she hasn't won the Emmy yet in this category. With all due respect to Sheryl Lee Ralph, who is of course a veteran, an icon, a legend, I don't think she's as like burst out, laugh out loud funny as Janelle James is. Like, Janelle James's character as Principal Ava in Abbott Elementary, like, she has birthed so many trends. She has birthed so many memes, so many sayings, so many clips. Like, she is the one. She's the chosen one. So the fact that she hasn't gotten the Emmy yet is kind of crazy to me. So I personally think that Janelle James would be my favorite in this category. I just think that she deserves the Emmy for being just a genuine comedian on that show. But in terms of who will win, I don't know. Maybe they'll give it to Meryl Streep. Maybe they'll give it to Meryl Streep. Do you know what I mean? Like, Meryl Streep is invited to the ceremony. Why wouldn't you give her the award? Maybe they'll do that. Sheryl Lee Ralph has already won this several times, so I don't think they'll give it to her again, although we shall see. They're stuck in their old ways. But for me personally, it should go to Janelle James. Whilst we're still giving out awards to Abbott Elementary, she should have one in her hands because she is consistently phenomenal and hilarious as Principal Ava. Okay, so next up on the list, we have, of course, the Best Supporting Actors in a Comedy Series. And here the nominees are Lionel Boyce in The Bear, Paul W. Downs in Hacks, Eben Moss-Bachrach from The Bear, Paul Rudd in Only Murders, Tyler James Williams in Abbott Elementary, and Bowen Yang in Saturday Night Live. Shout out to Bowen Yang. Yeah. Shout out to Bowen Yang. He is one of the best, relatively new cast members of Saturday Night Live. Each and every time I see hilarious skits from that show, Bowen Yang is somehow involved. Like, in terms of the rest of the cast, we have Tyler James Williams, who took home the award from 2023. I think he's phenomenal as Eddie in Abbott Elementary, so I wouldn't be mad at him taking home another award, although the Abbott Elementary hype or awards hype seems to have faded a little bit to make way for The Bear. The Bear. I think that this is Eben Moss-Bachrach's award to lose, although shout out to Lionel. Shout out to Lionel Marcus, okay, from The Bear, who got a nomination here. Again, wholly deserving. The Bear had such great material in season 2 that any of these actors would go home with this award and I would be like, yeah, Makes sense. Absolutely. And that speaks to the amazing writing of season 2 and the way that they spotlighted these characters. But let's not forget that season 2 had the episode Forks. Okay, when Richie went through that character arc in that one episode, and Eben Mossback acted the hell out of, like, please, let's be serious. This is his to lose. I think he should absolutely take home this award. Okay, so now that we've talked about the actors in the comedy series, it's time, of course, to dive into best comedy series overall. And here the nominees are Abbott Elementary, The Bear, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Hacks, Only Murders in the Building, Palm Royale, and Reservation Dogs, and What We Do in the Shadows. I'm always delighted to see What We Do with the Shadows featured anywhere on these nominations lists, so very happy to see it here. It's never gotten the recognition that it deserves, which is really annoying. So I don't really expect that to change this time around, unfortunately. But again, I'm really happy to see that it is nominated, and people are still watching and acknowledge that it's phenomenal. Like, it's actually one of the greatest shows of the 2020s. In terms of the rest, we have Abbott Elementary, which again is still off of its, awards momentum from a couple of years back, and is of course completely and wholly deserving. I think it's going to be one of those shows that's just constantly nominated because it's a consistently brilliant comedy series. Speaking of, by the way, it's not lost on me that Disney seems to have a monopoly on comedy because quite a few of these shows, including Abbott, The Bear, Only Murders, and What We Do in the Shadows, these are all Disney series, whether it be through Hulu or FX. So they've really come out on top when it comes to these comedy categories. They also have quite a few in drama. Shōgun, being the front runner, is also a Disney property. So people who like to think that Disney is flopping, go woke, go broke, and all of that haven't seen the full picture. Because in the television categories, they're shining bright. Actually, they're giving the others like Netflix and Apple TV Plus and Amazon Prime a run for their money. We do have some offerings from awards veteran HBO. We have Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I think was on its final season. That's what's being nominated here. I've never watched the show, but it's a fan favorite. Someone out there watches it, even though no one talks about it. So glad to see that it was nominated till the end. And Hacks, of course, which came back swinging with season 3. Like I said, I thought it was a great improvement on season 2, and I'm happy to see it be nominated here again. So we do have a mixture. Even Apple TV Plus managed to get in here with Palm Royale, although I personally would have chosen Loot over Palm Royale if any of them needed to be chosen. I don't think it's as strong as Ted Lasso, right? Like, we're not dealing with the same level of comedic genius as Ted Lasso, and to this day I will never understand why Ted Lasso ended the way that it did and as quickly as it did, but that's a whole different discussion. I don't think that Palm Royale is a suitable substitute. Certainly not against Ted Lasso, but not even against Loot. But anyways, all of this is mute because the real winner of the night is going to be The Bear. Like, I absolutely think that The Bear will and should take this home. Season 2 was one of the best seasons of television ever made. Like, remember that? You can go ahead and check out my review of season 2 of The Bear if you want to hear more of my thoughts on it, but I think it's pretty safe to say that The Bear should and will take home this award. Okay, so next up we're going to be diving into the limited/anthology series categories. Now, I think it's a new thing that they've done this year of separating the limited series/anthology series apart from the TV movie category, because I think they used to all be together. Now they seem to be in separate kind of realms, which is fine, but we're just going to be delving into limited series for this video, so we're not going to be diving into movies made for television, I'm afraid. Starting us off in the limited series category, we have Best Lead Actress, and here the nominees are Jodie Foster for True Detective, Night Country, Brie Larson for Lessons in Chemistry, Juno Tempo for Fargo, Sofia Vergara for Griselda, and Naomi Watts for Feud, Capote versus the Swans. So let's start off with, I mean, I can say straight away that I do not watch True Detective, so I can't comment on Jodie Foster's performance, I'm afraid. And I don't watch Fargo either, so can't say much on Juno Temple. So that cancels two of them. I also did not watch Griselda. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I wasn't really into the kind of drug material this year, so I didn't really watch Griselda. But from what I saw, Sofia Vergara was killing it, doing all that she could. She produced this series. She was so hands-on and involved and promoted the hell out of it. So I'm really glad to see that it's become such a successful part of her post-Modern Family career. And it's great that she landed the nomination when all was said and done. So that's really impressive. But like I said, I didn't watch it, so I can't really speak on her performance. Next up, we have Naomi Watts in Feud, Capote versus the Swans. I've been waiting to talk about this. I've been waiting to talk about this because here's the thing, please. The first season of Feud, the first season of Ryan Murphy's Feud was exceptional. This was incredible television, incredible storytelling. For that season, you had the exploration of the rivalry between Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, who were portrayed by Susan Sarandon and Jessica Lange respectively. So they absolutely knocked it out of the park. They were absolutely phenomenal on that season, but also the writing and the storytelling was so engaging. I was enraptured. Like, I loved the first season of Feud. I was sad to see that we didn't get subsequent seasons quickly, but I was like, listen, if it takes some time to create perfection the way that they did for the first season, leave them to it, okay? Let Ryan Murphy and co get to it when they can. And so they bring out this follow-up with the Capote versus the Swans, and imagine my disappointment. Imagine my like, I just listen, this isn't a Capote versus the Swans review, so I'll just say, in essence, the main issue was that I just did not care. I did not care about Capote. I did not care about the Swans. I didn't care about the story. Like, it's just not, it's not what I wanted. Okay, because with Feud, like, you saw the humanity in both sides, you know, in both characters, and it also felt a bit more personal because it was just one-to-one, and the story was just so much more compelling. I mean, there's just many reasons why the first season of Feud was infinitely better than this follow-up, but yeah, I wasn't impressed, unfortunately, with the follow-up of this series. But I will say, I do think that Naomi Watts was exceptional. Yeah, I think that she was exceptional on Feud, and all of the shortcomings of the show that I found had nothing to do with her performance, because I think she was absolutely phenomenal. She disappeared into the role. Like, I kept forgetting that it was Naomi Watts. So she was really, really good here. And there were great performances all around, which we'll talk about in a second. It's just that the show itself was such a disappointment to me. And then we have Lessons in Chemistry, where Brie Larson absolutely shone. I'm really glad to see that she was nominated here. I think Lessons in Chemistry was a really great limited series. It kind of went in a different direction than I thought it would. It bobbed when I thought it would weave, but I did enjoy it overall. So in terms of my front runner, in terms of who I think should win, just based off of what I've seen, I would say Brie Larson from Lessons in Chemistry, but I think who it will go to is probably Sofia Vergara for Griselda, and I think that is wholly deserving from what I've seen, especially how passionate as she was about this project and how hands-on, and how she really made an effort to disappear into the role as well. I mean, I wouldn't say she was unrecognizable, but the prosthetics and her performance seems to really help to get her in character. Then next up we have Best Lead Actor in a Limited or Anthology Series, and here the nominees are Matt Bomer in Fellow Travelers, Jon Hamm in Fargo, Tom Hollander, not to be confused with Tom Holland, for Feud, Capote versus the Swans, Richard Gadd for Baby Reindeer, and Andrew Scott for Ripley. So I've actually watched most of these shows in this category. The only one that I haven't seen is Fargo, but I've watched Fellow Travelers, Feud, Baby Reindeer, and Ripley. All really strong nominees. All really strong nominees. I hate to say it because I hate to give men too much credit, but but the actor nominees lists, oh, they're legit. Like these actors were really doing the actoring. Okay, I'm really impressed by this. And we have such variety once again. I mean, you have Matt Bomer from Fellow Travelers. What a fascinating series, taking a look at Matt Bomer, who is this closeted gay man living in a very political world post-World War II, in the heavy gaze of the McCarthy era, where you have a lot of the Red Scare and McCarthyism just kind of running rampant in Washington, D.C. and as well across America. It's a really fascinating insight into this kind of closeted gay man's relationship with Jonathan Bailey's character as he tries to balance, you know, the view of manhood that society has for him versus the life that he wants, you know, deep down to be living. And if society had caught up with that, he would have been allowed to. But you kind of take a look at that relationship across the years, and it doesn't have a fairy tale book ending, but it's just really fascinating and multi-layered when it comes to the show and Matt Bomer's performance, because he's not necessarily a likable character all the time or many of the times. So there was a lot for Matt Bomer to play off of. So I think he's wholly deserving of the nomination here. And then we get to Tom Hollander. Speaking of unlikable characters, speaking of trash characters, Tom Hollander in Feud. Oh my goodness. But again, this is where the juice is, right? Like, this is where the spice and the material is. Like, actors must love roles like that, where you get to play someone who is just so complicated, not necessarily likable, rather wholly unlikable, actually. But there's just so much to that character. So I think Tom Hollander, like, absolutely rose to the occasion. It took me a while to get used to his performance, to be honest, because it seemed so out there and really kooky. Like, he has this weird accent and his mannerisms are bizarre and his look is off-putting. So there's just so much about him that is weird and strange, and it seems like a caricature. But Tom Hollander has absolutely done his homework on Capote, and I think he melded, he disappeared into this role. I think it was one of the best performances that I've seen of him. I mean, I've seen a couple of things from him, so it was really impressive, honestly. Like, he was phenomenal here. And then you have Richard Gadd. You have Richard Gadd of Reindeer fame, the Netflix sensation that had everyone hooked a couple of months back. I'm glad to see that the momentum carried on enough for him to get an Emmy nomination. This is based off of his life, like it was his story, so who better to play him than himself? But I can only imagine that it must have been like re-traumatizing to go through all of these things again for this Netflix series. So I wonder if, you know, he dealt with that by having like therapy, or maybe this was part of his therapy, I don't know. But, you know, he delivered a great performance as a version of himself and, you know, telling his story, which was extremely courageous. The character, again, sometimes was really unlikable, really unrelatable, and then at times, you know, you just felt bad for him, you felt sorry for him. So the fact that it's based off of Richard's own story, and the fact that the series was just so brilliantly executed, definitely makes him a shoo-in for a nomination here. I don't know about the final win, but the nomination, I think, is enough. And then we have Andrew Scott as Ripley, and honestly, I would probably choose him. He would probably be my personal choice for this category. Andrew Scott as Ripley. I don't have enough time. Okay, well, I'm getting timed out. I don't have enough time to go through my thoughts on Ripley, but man, that series was crazy. That series was wild. Absolutely wild. And Andrew Scott was just... He was immaculate. I mean, he's just like a really good actor, actually. He's just a really good actor. I don't know if you've noticed, but he absolutely killed it in Ripley. I've never watched the Fantastic Mr. Ripley, the Audacious Mr. Ripley. I've never watched the original film, but I definitely want to circle back and do so. I wonder if it competes with the Netflix series, though, because I really enjoyed the black and white Netflix series, and Andrew Scott was just a phenomenally, deliciously evil and complex character. So overall, who do I think should win in this category? Maybe Andrew Scott, possibly Matt Bomber, perhaps Tom Hollander. Very interesting to see a lot of LGBTQ representation here. We've got 3 of these gay characters, and they're all depicted in like these really interesting, multifaceted ways, which shows just how far we've come when it comes to LGBTQ representation. Although I would be remiss if I didn't point out that a couple of them are quite villainous, which I don't know how that would have an impact on people in the LGBTQ community, but it's definitely noted that there's a theme here. But overall, there was some pretty good representation in terms of, you know, LGBTQ and also race and ethnicity. You had Lily Gladstone also getting an Emmy nomination, and some Native American actors from Reservation Dogs also getting nominated. So there were definitely landmark nominations here that I think speak to the direction that Hollywood is headed in, slowly but surely, which gets me, you know, really hyped and excited each and every time. And so now we end the video with Best Limited or Anthology Series, and here the nominees are Baby Reindeer, Fargo, Lessons in Chemistry, Ripley, and True Detective Night Country. My personal choice would be Ripley. Absolutely. I thought that series was absolutely phenomenal. I was on board with each and every twist and turn. I thought it was a really compelling, not even a murder mystery, but like, you know who committed the murders, you know who did it, but you just want to find out, you know, what's gonna happen to Ripley. You know, is he gonna get caught? What's his next scheme? How is he gonna get out of this one? Like, each and every time I was just on the edge of my seat, watching this character who's so conniving and so villainous get himself out of the hole that he was digging. But I could see this award going to Baby Reindeer because it was such a global sensation. It also has a lot of like real life meaning and a positive and important message about stalking and stalking behaviors, and the experience of this real life man who had to go through it all. I mean, that scene where he is, you know, on stage telling his truth, having this breakdown, is still like etched into my brain. And even as I sit here, I'm thinking about how I felt when I saw that for the first time. So Richard Gadd, you know, he gave everything to the series, you can tell, and I'm so glad that it worked out for the best, because the series overall was just also super compelling, and just a standout show for the year. So I would put my bets on Baby Reindeer, and I would be happy to see it win as well. So that's it from me, guys. Now that I told you guys my thoughts on the EMMYS 2024 nominations list, it's time for you guys to let me know what you thought of the list down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe to catch the videos coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.